Let's jump into creating assignments. Back in Unit 4, we covered how to build content in your course using the different resources and activity types that Echo has to offer. Today, we are going to take a closer look at 4 activity types we suggest you start with when getting students into Echo to complete their work: the assignment, the assessment, the discussion, and the journal. We will take a look at how to create them, assign points if needed, and what they look like from the student perspective. Let's get started by entering a course through the Editor tool. At this time, we should have some sort of course organization started. Either within a folder or at the bottom of the course editor, click the Add Activity button. In the pop-up, you will see the 4 activity types we will be focusing on today: assignment, assessment, discussion, and journal. These activities are made for students to interact with and can therefore have points associated and be graded. Let's get started by looking at the assignment activity type. Once you create an assignment and give it a title, you can add content to the assignment. This might be where you place a prompt or give instructions for the student to follow when completing the assignment. Once you've done that, you should head over to the Settings tab. In the Gradebook and Submission panel, you have the option to make this activity gradable. The next step would be to decide how students will be submitting their work. If you select None, that would mean the students are going to be turning in something physical to you that you will later grade in Echo. This means they will not interact with this activity to turn something in, but rather to look for instructions. If you choose Single Document, students have the choice to upload one document or select one Google document. If you choose multiple documents, students have the choice to upload more than one document. Web address or URL allows students to enter a web address to, say, a website they created to show their learning. Notes Only allows students to submit their work by typing directly into Echo. When using Notes Only, Echo has an autosave feature that saves as students type. If they need to leave and come back to their work, it will still be there. Up next is assigning points using multi-outcome scoring. This is where you get to decide what skills you are assessing for this piece of work. Almost every time you create an assignment, you will be assessing one of your content areas. If students will be turning something in with some form of writing, you might also assign points to written communication. If they worked with a partner or a group, you might add points for collaboration. Most assignments you will create will not assess all of the outcomes, and sometimes you might only be assessing 1 or 2 outcomes, and that is totally fine. The key is to make sure your course material has a nice balance of all the outcomes. Next up, you'll want to make sure you have the correct grading period selected. In the Activity Settings panel, you have the option to give your assignment a due date. Here you can select the assignment's due date and time until it is due. You can also allow late submissions. You have the option to always allow late submissions, give a grace period in days, hours, or in minutes. If you scroll down, in the Advanced Gradebook options, you have the choice to include this activity in the final score. You will always want to have this option selected unless you plan to use this assignment for feedback rather than a grade. Because I want this activity to count for a grade, I'm going to leave this setting turned on for now. I'll click Save in the upper right-hand corner. Now my assignment appears in my course editor and will be visible to students. To make it easy for students to find, your best bet is to link it into your agenda. If I'd like to move this assignment, I can simply drag and drop it where I'd like it. Let's come back to the Add Activity button. Next, we will look at the assessment activity type. Give the assessment a title. Within the content window, add any instructions or content your students will need to take this assessment. Next, head over to the Settings tab. Within the Gradebook and Submission panel, you'll see that you can only choose one outcome. Because this is an assessment, we only give the option to assess one of the learning outcomes. Once you select your desired outcome, you can then choose how many points possible. In the Activity Settings, you can give the assessment a due date, decide how many attempts students can have at taking the assessment, decide how many questions you would like per page, allow save and continue, require answers, randomize question order, and randomized response order. The next step would be to set up your questions. Within the assessment, there are 8 different types of questions: custom, essay, fill in the blank, matching, multiple answer, multiple choice, ordering, and passage. As you create your questions, you have the option to preview them so you can see what they look like from the student perspective. We won't cover how to create each question, but there will be a linked article with step-by-step instructions on how to do so for each question type. When finished, we would click Save. Up next, we will take a look at the discussion activity type. A discussion is used for just that, a space for students to discuss a topic given to them by the teacher. They can write posts, start threads, respond to others, and share their thoughts. Give the discussion a title. Within the content window, give students directions on what it is they are to be discussing about. Next, move on to the Settings tab. In the Gradebook and Submissions tab, decide if you want to make this activity gradable. Assign points to each outcome you plan to assess. In the Activities Settings panel, set up your due date if you want to have one and adjust other necessary settings. When you are finished, click Save. Now, let's take a look at the journal activity type. A journal activity is a place for students to write that only they and their teacher can see. Once the teacher creates a single journal activity, Echo automatically creates a private journal for each student. Journals can last a day, a week, a month, or even all school year. An example of how a journal might be used at the elementary level would be to practice a writing skill all week that is then assessed at the end of the week. This allows students to practice in the same place and allows teachers to see student work in the same place and see how a student has progressed over a week's time. Click the Add To link and select Journal Activity Type. Give the journal a title. In the Content area, add the journal prompt. If you want the journal to last longer than one day, you can add multiple prompts, or you can come back later and adjust the prompt to add more. Within the Settings tab, decide if your journal will be graded or not and assign points. In the Activity Settings panel, select the due date if you want one. When finished, click Save. Now that we have created an assignment, an assessment, a discussion, and a journal, let's take a look at what these activities look like from the student perspective. When I enter my course as a student, I can access my activities created for me by my teacher in 2 places: my daily agenda, if my teacher has linked them there, or in my course content. As a teacher, I'd always suggest linking activities to the course agenda if you have students in Echo interacting with assignments. First, I'll click our assignment. Here I can see the assignment instructions, and because my teacher selected Notes Only, I can type my response directly into Echo. When I'm finished, I can hit Submit. I can tell I have successfully submitted my work because it tells me so here. When I close out of my assignment, I am redirected back to my agenda. Now, let's check out our assessment. Here I have the option to start my assessment. I can go through and answer each question. When I'm finished, I'll click Submit. Now let's take a look at our journal. Here I can see my prompts for the week and the instructions. To create a new post, I'll select New Post. In the pop-up, I'll give my post a title based on my teacher's instruction, and then I'll begin writing my post. When I'm finished, I'll click Save. Now I can see my post, and my teacher can too. Next, let's take a look at the discussion. When I enter my discussion, I can see the instructions left for me by my teacher. To add to the discussion, I'll select New Thread. After I type my response to the discussion, I'll select Post. I can also respond to a classmate's post by selecting Reply. Once I'm finished typing my response, I'll select Post. Take some time now to create a few different activity types in your course. Be sure to take time to think about what outcomes you might assess for each activity and practice assigning points and adjusting due date settings. Don't forget to link the assignments you create to your agenda. For more information on the activity types and how they function, be sure to check out the linked articles.